Everywhere in the world, there are individuals who push themselves beyond known limits, often reaching feats never accomplished before. As a result, they usually make significant breakthroughs. But this relentless pursuit can sometimes lead to horrifying consequences. One of these individuals was 29-year-old Agnes Milowka. Born in Poland in 1981, she quickly moved to Australia with her parents. Like most young people, she found a love for animals, which would lead to her first underwater experience at Ningolo Reef in Western Australia. During this dive, she had the opportunity to interact with a lot of the marine life that the reef had to offer, and from that day, Agnes became hooked on diving. Just 2 weeks later, she was enrolling for a full open water course, and once qualified, Agnes began indulging in her newfound passion. One of her expeditions was at Piccaninny Ponds in southern Australia. It used to be a popular snorkeling and dive spot before it was turned into a conservation park. Its unique ponds are home to a variety of species like shrimp, eels, and other freshwater fish. But as you go deeper into the pond, it opens up to reveal vast underwater chambers. During a snorkeling session at Piccaninny Ponds, Agnes became fixated on a turtle and started following it through the water, until she found herself floating off from the edge, and was peering down into a deep, dark chasm that seemed to have no bottom. Agnes stared into the hole, mesmerized by the unknown. The allure to go down and explore was so strong for Agnes. Something within her was ignited, and she knew that this is what she wanted to spend the rest of her life doing. She started cave diving the following year, and quickly gained a reputation as a fearless and exceptional cave diver. One of the reasons for this was that Agnes had something special that would set her apart from other cave divers. It was her petite frame. It allowed her to navigate through the tightest constrictions that would have been simply impossible for the average-sized diver. She became so good at squeezing through passageways that it pretty much became her identity. She was small enough and brave enough to squeeze through the tightest constrictions and uncover places that had never been seen before. One of her greatest achievements was finding a huge underwater connection between Peacock Springs and Baptizing Springs. She was the first person to lay eyes on almost 3 kilometers of unexplored cave. But even these daring feats were not enough for Agnes. She was the type of person that would push herself further and further. If she was unable to fit through a tight passage, she would sometimes use the no-mount diving technique, which meant completely removing her cylinders or rebreather to be able to fit through. This is an extremely uncommon practice and is considered far too risky for most cave divers. But Agnes was not most cave divers. There was something extraordinary about her. Her fearless and calm demeanour in the water, and her passion to go where no man had gone before, meant that she really was a cut above the rest. And what's most impressive is she has achieved all of this at the age of just 29. But even Agnes stated that she has had her fair share of issues while exploring underwater caves, like getting tangled in line, stuck in tight passages, and even equipment failures. But incredibly, she doesn't class any of these as close calls, and refers to them as minor bumps in the road. During most of her dives, Agnes would bring cameras to capture these special underwater moments, and ended up getting pretty good at underwater photography, which would lead to her filling the role as underwater camerawoman for multiple movies and even documentaries. She even worked as a stunt double for 2 female characters in the popular 2011 movie Sanctum. In one of these scenes for the movie, she played the part of a woman trying to fit through a tight passage, just like she would be in her ordinary life. She would soon find one of her favourite places to dive, a place called Tank Cave. It was just a few kilometres away from Piccaninny Ponds, the very same place she first felt the urge to go deeper years ago. The entrance to Tank Cave is underground. After climbing down a short ladder, the small surface lake leads to an extensive maze-like system with over 7 kilometres of diveable passage. This makes it one of the longest underwater caves in Australia. Agnes fell in love with Tank Cave. She described it as a spider web gone wild, and it became her playground. She laid line into so many different new passageways and found completely undiscovered sections of the cave. Agnes believed that eventually, somewhere in Tank Cave would lead to an even larger area, which would then make it the largest underwater cave in the world. February the 27th, 2011 started like any other day for Agnes. Accompanied by a group of 10 cave divers, she went on an expedition into Tank Cave. Fellow cave diver and that day's supervising guide, Andy Higgins, unlocked the gates leading to the cave and arranged the ladder for the divers to get inside. Throughout the morning, the divers followed a schedule, with one always staying on dry land near the entrance, while the others ventured in and out. But by around midday, 9 out of the 10 divers had safely exited the cave. Everyone but Agnes. It's not entirely clear what happened down there, but the main story goes like this. Agnes had a mission during this dive. It was to lay new line in unexplored areas. This is known in the world of cave diving as marking virgin territory. During her mission to lay this line, Agnes separated from her diving partner to navigate a challenging passage which would lead her to an extremely tight restriction, one that had not been entered before. She managed to squeeze herself through, but the other side was a dead end, and Agnes became stuck. She was unable to get herself out of the restriction, and every time she tried it would stir up silt, which completely blinded her. Despite all of this, Agnes stayed calm and tried tirelessly to free herself. She would eventually manage to get herself out, but by this time she had used up so much of her air and the visibility was so bad that there was just no way to escape. Agnes drowned alone in a hard-to-reach area of Tank Cave. Her dive partner waited patiently for Agnes, but as the minutes turned to hours, it became clear that something had gone horribly wrong. He eventually had to surface alone and bear the grim news that Agnes was missing. The divers spent all day and night trying to find Agnes, and late in the evening they spotted her body. And tragically, she was found just 16 feet from a reserve cylinder, which was still full of air. When they saw her body, her fellow divers could tell that she had remained calm until the very end. It took several more days for rescue teams to prepare for the retrieval of her body, and thankfully it all went to plan, and her body would be safely recovered. Agnes was the only child of Chris Milowka and his wife. They are absolutely shattered from the loss of their daughter, but at the same time they are proud that she had the courage to go into such a dangerous and alien world. For those of you who sit there and wonder why people actually enter these types of places, well, who better to explain it than someone who has given their very life for it?
There is no greater feeling in the world than finding passage that no one ever in the history of the world has seen before. How can you beat that? Nothing can beat that. I guess in a cave, no one knows what's down there, no one knows what's around the corner, no one can tell you what to expect and how you can prepare for it. So for me, it really is the true essence of exploration. It was no longer a hobby, it was no longer a sport. It was something I could do that was valuable. Bringing back information and data from places where scientists couldn't go and providing them with this for their interpretation.
Thank you so much for watching, and if you did enjoy the video, feel free to hit that subscribe button. But until the next true disaster, it's goodbye from me.